Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blackshear, broadcasting to you live from the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. Today's show is for an hour as I was invited to the Women's Council of Associated Real Property Brokers, ARPB, for the swearing in of Tammy Willis as president. Buy tickets for this event via the link in our podcast description on YouTube or Facebook. We also continue to ask for your social media support. Share the following hashtag Stop School Bullying Crane County, Texas 2022. Also, attach our pod link from 10/14/2021. Driving While Black, Michael Thrash, Taylor County, Texas, and that's TX. Attach our podcast link from 1014 listed once again in today's podcast description for Michael Thrash's story. A special thanks to our sponsor, Dr. Ashley. Please take it away.
Thank you, Doug. A special thanks to our sponsor. Visit Chef Carter Lewis of Soul Slice Restaurant and Catering in Oakland, California. The website lists winter break, but please know that they are open every Friday in February from 6 to 10 p.m. for biscuits and $5 beer. They'll also have a gospel brunch, and it's coming up again March 13th. RSVP required for events. Also, spots are filling up for their spring season catering services. That's Easter, Father's Day, and graduations. Located at 5849 San Pablo Avenue, Oakland, California, 94608. Visit the restaurant's website, www.soulslice.com. Also, they can be contacted via telephone 510-879-7689. Tell them BBRT sent you. Also, we want to acknowledge Magnolia Engineering and Construction for their continued support, and we congratulate Ms. Tammy Willis on being a minority woman-owned engineering and construction firm. For more information about the company, visit its website, www.magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com.
Well, let me say 30 seconds. I know we don't have a lot today because we're going to finish at 59 minutes, but Tammy is doing some amazing things out here. BART board auditor. She's now the president of the Women's Council of Associated Real Property Brokers, and she owns an engineering and construction company. We are blessed to have her as a sponsor. Tammy Willis, keep up the great work. We're proud of you. Today's show highlight. Tonight we will get an updated on the Port of Oakland and the ILWU and what job preservation. And let me be clear, we just got a call from Trent. He's in the trenches right now on the front line on the City of Oakland steps. He's been asked to speak for the teachers union supporting not closing almost 16 to 18 schools, folks. So he might be cutting in here shortly to, he's been asked to speak at 4:30. So he just called and asked, can he come on a little bit earlier? So we want to make sure that if he comes on, we will be ready for him because he's going to give us the tea leaves both on the Howard Terminal, the multi-billionaire Disneyland playground he wants. He's going to give us an update on ILWU, and he's going to give us an update on the teachers union. So if he comes on, we're going to immediately move over to Mr. Trent Willis, immediate past president of the ILWU. Our guests today include weekly check-in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, Department Chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at University of the West. Dr. Ashley, Welcome back. Welcome.
Thank you, Doug.
Mr. Trent Willis, current president, or excuse me, the past president of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, ILWU Local 10. Janani Ramachandran, Esquire, returns next week. Her new website is Janani4, and that's FOR, Oakland.com, and new Instagram at Janani4, the number 4, numeral 4, Oakland. Now for our national political highlight and several elections. Dr. Ashley, please take it away.
Thank you, Doug. And so we have first Marcus Flowers. He's a brother, proud Army veteran, husband, father, and patriot. He is a Georgia Democrat running for Congress to unseat and just out fundraised Marjorie Taylor Greene. Learn more on Instagram by visiting his page at Marcus, the number 4, and Georgia, or by visiting his website, www.marcusforgeorgia.com. And you may see him shortly later on this month. Also, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock is a Democrat who helped flip Georgia blue along with Senator Jon Ossoff. He's running again for the U.S. Senate. He's a pastor, advocate, Savannah born and raised, and a Morehouse man. Learn more about Senator Warnock by visiting his Instagram page at Raphael Warnock or www.warnockforgeorgia.com. Miss Stacey Abrams is a Democrat, and she's running to unseat Republican Brian Kemp for governor of Georgia. And to quote Ms. Abrams, opportunity in our state shouldn't be determined by zip code, background, or access to power. Learn more about her campaign by visiting her Instagram page at Stacey Abrams or www.stacey.abrams.com. And that's Stacey, Stacey. Val Demings, a Democrat, is running for the 2022 Florida Senate seat. If you would like to stay updated on Team Demings, text the word JOIN to 77076. This former Orlando police chief is seeking to unseat Republican, you're going to say it, Doug, for me?
Little Marco Rubio. Little Marco, pack your little bag, as Trump said, pack your little bag, put your little kid tennis shoes on, and scurry on up out of there. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doug. Only you can say it like that. Learn more about Val Demings' campaign by visiting the website www.valdemings.com or again, Instagram handle at Val Demings. Back to you, Doug.
Okay, audience, I just text Trent the link. He will have approximately 20 minutes, so we're going to keep moving ahead, but when he cuts in, we're going to chime in as he is on the front line fighting for our kids to not have to cross over districts to get to school and get an education needed to become a valuable citizen and an asset in our community. So, Dr. Ashley, please, can you announce the news of the day?
Absolutely. So on this day, 1947, again, this is courtesy of the Equal Justice Initiative, a white mob lynched Mr. Willie Earl near Greenville, South Carolina. He was a 24-year-old African-American man who was being held in the Pickens County Jail in South Carolina on charges of assaulting a white taxicab driver. A mob of white men, mostly taxicab drivers, seized Mr. Earl from the jail, took him to a deserted country road near Greenville, brutally beat him with guns and knives, and then shot him to death. When arrested, 26 of the 31 defendants gave full statements admitting participation in Mr. Earl's death. And as the trial began, Judge J. Robert Martin warned that he would, quote, not allow racial issues to be injected in this case. During the 10-day trial, the defendants chewed gum and chuckled each time the victim was mentioned. The defense did not present any witnesses or evidence to rebut the confessions and instead blamed, quote, Northern interference for bringing the case to trial at all. At one point, the defense attorney likened Mr. Earl to a mad dog that deserved killing, and the mostly white spectators laughed in support. And despite the undisputed confession, the all white jury acquitted the defendants of all charges on March 21st, 1947, and the judge ordered them released. Some Greenville leaders cited the trial as progress in Southern race relations. And again, quoting, this was the first time that South Carolina has brought mass murder charges against alleged lynchers. In 1948, when Mr. Earl's mother attempted to collect under a state law ordering counties to pay $2,000 to the family of a lynching victim, her claim was denied on the grounds that due to the acquittals, there was no proof her son had been lynched. In 2020, a historical marker was erected near the site of Mr. Earl's murder. I want to invite our listeners to again visit calendar.eji.org to hear more details about this horrific murder. But again, I also want to appeal to our listeners. If you notice, I had, and we've talked about trauma a few weeks ago, a visceral reaction while I was reading this story, Doug. I imagine you did too. And this is why I carefully decide how much news I'm going to consume, even when there are cases that involve Black victims. It's just really important to think about vicarious trauma, and that this is not distant history that we're discussing. This is also for our listeners where they may have some distance from this story. This is why we don't celebrate just based on indictments.
I'm going to tell you something, Dr. Ashley. This is a horrific time back then, and it's a horrific time economically now. Because just as you're controlled by someone owning your body, 3/5, we would call 3/5 of a person, if you don't have an opportunity to develop economically, you're still a slave. Mm-hmm. So I believe I saw a note that said Trent was backstage, audio only. We want to make sure we get that man in. Oh, there he is.
How you doing? I don't know
so
if you can see me. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm sitting in my, I'm sitting in my car here, and I'm trying to get on here, on my phone, because I wasn't able to make it back home. There's a lot of things going on today that I need to tell you guys about, though. So don't let me interrupt.
No. This is your time. This is your time. I'm going on mute because let me tell you something, brother. You out, audience. This man is out on the front lines, not only fighting for economics and saving jobs, union jobs, but he's out there fighting for our kids. So, Dr. Ashley, we're gonna break this, as they say, special news bulletin update.
Thank you. All right. Well, right on, man. The ILW, we thank you for always allowing us to express ourselves on your show. You too, Dr. Ashley. We really appreciate it. I know I tell you guys that all the time, but it's not enough thank yous to really thank you for this opportunity. And just to let you know, we've had a lot of discussions about the Howard Terminal proposed project. And how bad that is for the city of Oakland and the surrounding cities, as well as the surrounding counties. And the situation has taken a sort of a new twist. Is really an old twist, but it's a new twist as far as your audience is concerned. And we talked a lot about the Fisher family and how they have their hands in a lot of dealings when it comes to the stadium. Well, your audience needs to know that the Fisher family also has their hands in the closure of public schools in Oakland. And there was a protest today. There's getting ready to be another one here at the Federal Building here in downtown Oakland, where I'm going to be speaking also. The OEA, the Oakland Education Association, which is the Oakland Teachers Union, basically, is protesting because there are plans to close, I believe it's 4 schools in Oakland in favor of charter schools, right? So guess who the owner of these charter schools would be? Can anyone guess?
It's go ahead.
It's John Fisher's mama.
What?
Yeah, so they run the charter schools. Matter of fact, they're more known for that than they are for being the owners of the Oakland A's. And I know they're the owners of the Gap and what is the other store? The Banana Republic.
Banana Republic. Navy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Libby Shaft is connected to the Fisher family through Oakland Promise. Okay, and they make a lot of large donations to Oakland Promise. Okay, so basically, and you know, I don't bite my tongue when I'm on your show. Basically, the Fisher family is paying people off through nonprofits. Okay, that's why you had some people in the community who were previously against the stadium. All of a sudden, they switched over and they were for the stadium. You know, so there was a protest today because today the city council, Oakland City Council, is going to be voting on the. Matter of fact, they're voting right now. It's on right now, and I was in between that and this because there's a lot of people waiting to speak out against it. It's on Zoom. They're going to be voting on the final EIR, environmental impact report, to give the go ahead to build this stadium from the city council. And we had a very large showing today at City Hall, Frank Ugawa Plaza, where we had about 500 longshoremen show up, along with some of the teachers from the OEA. And it was a very successful event. I had a interview that was on KTVU News, on the noon news.
I saw you. You did a great job, brother. You're looking good. You represent, man.
Yeah, thank you. I was also on KPFA Radio, ABC News Broadcasting. So the word got out. The Chronicle was there. Channel 7 was there. Channel 5. You know, a lot of different news outlets. And what we're doing is I'm really proud of our IOW members because they did a good job in making a showing and getting people to understand what's going on here. So to make it simple and to just explain it in a simple way, we're talking about gentrification and we're talking about privatization. Okay. Both of those things equal up to a further widening of the wealth gap and the destruction of the middle class. Okay. The worst thing about the destruction of the middle class is that the Black and brown people in our communities are disproportionately affected by that damage. Okay. So let's make that clear. The first people to get negatively affected by privatization and gentrification are Black and brown people. Black and brown people are going to be the first to be displaced, the first to be unemployed, the first to be broke, the first to not be able to feed their families, the first to be run out of town. Okay. We did a great job at vocalizing that message today. And I was very proud of our members. I don't know what the outcome of this vote is going to be, but whatever the outcome of this vote is going to be, the message was that, we need to, as a collective, as working people, do a better job at working together, okay, and start holding these elected officials accountable, start running candidates against them, and start exposing them for the things that they're doing. So I'm on here today to expose the not only Libby Shaft and her dealings in helping to gentrify the city, but also the Labor Council, the Alameda County Labor Council, also the Port Commission, which, Doug, a few people on the Port Commission. Okay, but their dealings, they're playing politics and they're smoozing with each other, and that has become more important to them than to actually represent the people who they're supposed to be representing. Okay, so when we talk about elected officials and appointed officials, because the Port Commission is made up of appointed officials. Okay, those officials are appointed by Libby Shaft, the mayor. Okay, so of course they're going to go in there and they're going to do her bidding. Okay, the only problem with that is Libby Shaft, as mayor, is supposed to be representing the people of Oakland, which then in turn means that the Port Commission is supposed to be representing the best interests of the people also, and they're not doing that. Okay, they're representing the best interests of a billionaire who wants to build a playground. Okay, and then the proponents of this playground are bringing in all of this misinformation to make the case for this playground. One of the things you heard, and this is what I'm disturbed about the Labor Council. The Labor Council is supposed to be looking out for working people. Okay, they're looking out for a billionaire, and they're misinforming people by saying that the building of this ballpark is going to create all of these great union jobs, when it's actually going to do the opposite. Okay, it's going to destroy good union paying jobs. Okay, the reason that argument doesn't make any sense is because if the building of this stadium at Howard Terminal is going to create all these great jobs, then it'll still create those great jobs at the Oakland Coliseum site where the stadium is right now. What would be the difference if the building trades built, workers built the stadium at Howard Terminal, or if they built it at the current Coliseum spot? What would be the difference between people who work the concession stands and work the ball games? What would be the difference in them working at the Howard Terminal proposed site, as opposed to working at the current Coliseum site? There's no difference there. Okay, the only difference is you'll be moving down to industrial land, the people's land that's owned by the public, and you're going to slap a playground right dead smack in the middle of maritime land, which the pandemic showed us this land is absolutely needed. There is no way that they can argue that this land is not needed to relieve the congestion from the supply chain back up. There's no way. And just to put icing on top of all of that I just said, right now as we speak, before I finished my term as president of Local 10, we had talks with the employers and the port, and they're using right now putting 25 acres at the Howard Terminal aside so that we could work satellite yards. Okay, what satellite yards are is we're going to be stacking containers and freeing up chassis. Okay, the reason you have a supply chain backup is because there's a shortage of chassis for truckers to move the exports in and the imports out. Okay, so that's the key right there. When you have supply chain congestion, then those loads that need to be delivered to warehouses are sitting on chassis in the yards. Okay, so they're not available. They're not moving. Okay, they're not available to then take on a load and bring back to the terminal to be exported somewhere. Okay, so you got a supply chain clog up there because of the lack of chassis. What this satellite yard is going to do is it's going to allow us to remove some of these boxes from these chassis, repair the chassis, All of this is going to be ILWU labor, okay, which it should have been in the first place. When I was president in 2005, we warned the companies not to outsource the work for repairing these chassis, okay, but they wanted to save money. And I know on your last show, I explained to you how the supply chain got clogged up because of the entities within the supply chain were doing all of these cost saving measures to save money, and they made it where it was basically was impossible to get cargo through the supply chain. Okay, so now even in Los Angeles, these satellite yards are already operating in Los Angeles. Okay, and they're freeing up chassis to move the cargo back and forth, which is going to relieve the congestion in the supply chain, meaning that people will be able to get their toilet paper, their Amazon packages that they've been waiting for months, things that they order online. The store shelves will be adequately stocked, and it's going to take a while to catch up, from this congestion. However, we got to start somewhere, okay, and it might take a year, might take 2 years, but eventually we're working towards relieving the congestion of the supply chain. The reason that's happening is because the employers and the terminal operators, the employers, and the ocean carriers are now working with the union, which is the workers, to get that done. Okay, now I don't know how long this relationship is going to keep going like this, but all of that in a nutshell tells you the whole story of what's happening and why it's important that we don't put a baseball stadium, an amusement park, and some $1 million plus condos dead smack on the land that we have to use to get this done. Okay. Now, the reason we're supporting the Oakland teachers is because the same family is trying to close down public schools, okay, which need to be invested in, not closed down. They need investment. Okay. We don't need to privatize our schools. Okay. We don't need to do that. We should have learned lessons from other things we've privatized, like the prison system. Okay. So you saw what happened when the prison system was privatized. They started locking up Black and brown people at record pace. Okay, there's all kind of statistics that show from the amount of people of color that was locked up in 1970 as compared to now, and it is an astronomical number that has risen by the millions over the years to feed this animal, this privatized animal called the industrial prison complex. Okay. So you start doing this with the schools and their private schools, then you're going to have people making the decision who can go to that school and who can't. Okay. So when you have Black and brown people being always disproportionately affected negatively by these decisions, who do you think is going to be the first? Who do you think is going to be the first people to be not allowed to go to these schools? Or who do you think is going to be outpriced for these schools? It's gentrification. It's the first step in driving Black and brown people out of these neighborhoods where this property is very valuable, and you have billionaires like the Fisher family who wants this property. They want to own everything. Okay, so people have to stand up and be vigilant. There's a John Mayer song. I think his name is John Mayer. He's an artist. He has a song called "Waiting for the World to Change." Okay, and he says it's hard to change the system when you're standing at a distance. That's one of the most telling lines of that song. It's hard to change the system when you're standing at a distance. So all of the people out there listening that don't think that they can do anything, or or they can't contribute and you feel helpless is not true. You get together with people like me and others who represent unions or whatever you represent, because the ILWU since the 1930s has made sure that Black and brown people have good union paying jobs here in Oakland and San Francisco. And there's no way we're going to go 80 plus years and then stop that. So this is why we're in the forefront. We owe it to our ancestors that fought and died for us to have the right to these jobs and to this land. We owe it to the Black Panthers. We owe it to Angela Davis. You know, we owe it to all of the people, Huey Newton, you know, Malcolm X. You know, we owe it to the chairman Fred Hampton and all of those people who died for us. You know, Jesus wasn't the only one died for us. Okay, these people died for us, and they died for us to have the right to live as human beings. And we will be doing them a disservice if we didn't stand up against gentrification and privatizing of our country and of our cities. I know that was a lot, but I'm kind of excited right now.
Well, I know you're only working with a few minutes because you were scheduled to talk at 3:30, but let me ask you this, Trent. Libby Schaaf, I don't even call her mayor anymore because if she would put in half the effort in supporting the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, we're talking about 30,000 jobs at the Oakland Coliseum, at a Coliseum that has been ranked number 5th in the nation for accessibility, location. And in addition to that, these are Black and brown kids who are going to be suffering as a consequences of the school closure. She has not even come. She's like that. What do they call that? That when the winter is over, the animal that pops his head up, Groundhog Day. She won't even pop her head up. And you know, Libby, I've been trying to give you a break here, but you are destroying the Black community single-handedly with education, jobs, and you have an opportunity to make history by helping the first African-American sports and entertainment group. That's shame on you. Go ahead, Trent.
Well, can you still hear me? You can still hear me? That you know, I don't have an answer for that, but the comment that I have for that is, you know, the Bobbitt Group is who you're referring to. They're not contributing thousands and thousands of dollars to Oakland Promise.
Who owns or who's in charge of Oakland Promise?
Say that again.
Who's in charge of Oakland Promise?
I believe that's Mayor Libby Schaaf.
Thank you, Mr. Trent Willis.
So Libby Schaaf is in control of a lot of what I call minions. Okay, and they leak all the way through the Port Commission, all the way to the Labor Council. Okay, so if you can pit, they had to pit labor against labor. So they pit the ILWU against the building trades, and they tell the building trades, "Oh yeah, you guys are going to get the jobs to build this stadium, and you're going to get this many millions of dollars, and it's going to pay this much, and you know these are good union jobs, so you should support this project." Okay, well, you know, it's not going to make a difference whether they build the stadium at Howard Terminal or at the Coliseum. They're still going to get the jobs, you know. So that's not a solid argument. You know, building a stadium at the Howard Terminal site is a horrific idea. First of all, you're going to further clog up the supply chain. And if you got 35,000 fans walking around in the street, clogging up the street, and you're trying to get trucks in and out of the port with cargo, that's not going to work. Okay. You also got a rail system running right through this proposed area. I mean, directly next to the Howard Terminal site, right outside. I'm not talking about a block away. I'm not talking about 2 blocks away or even a half block away. I'm talking about immediately when you walk out the gate of Howard Terminal, the rail is right there. Okay, and we all know Jack London Square. You've all been to Jack London Square. You know the train goes right by where everybody's walking. There was already a brother who got hit by the train, the artist for Tower of Power, when he was performing at Yoshi's, got hit by the train, trying to go perform at Yoshi's, or he finished performing at Yoshi's. All I know is that he got hit by the train. Okay, there's no parking at all. Where are these people going to park? Where are the fans going to park? Okay, there's no BART access. Okay, there's no. I know they want to dump $400 million of infrastructure money that should be going to the port to make it more of a streamlined process to a flow of cargo. But the county supervisors voted to contribute this money to the infrastructure for the stadium. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd to beg the federal government, okay, for COVID-19 relief money, you know, to improve the stadium, and then turn around and take $400 million of the local public money, meaning the counties, and dump it into the infrastructure of the stadium. I guess building a gondola and, you know, all of this crazy stuff that's you know, you're just going to cause a backlog, you know, when it comes to the flow of cargo. And then when you add the $1 million plus condominiums and the people who live there, you that's a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, Stevie Wonder can see this disaster coming, okay? And it's no way that the people of Oakland and the citizens of not only Oakland but the surrounding cities and the counties should be going for this. Okay, the only problem is they're not asking the opinion of the everyday citizens like you and I. Okay, they're going off of what this billionaire wants. Okay, and he's making sure that they're paid off, nice and paid off, through nonprofits, and it's time to expose that.
Well, let me ask you something, Trent. Let me ask you something. They being the Post newspaper and a couple other news outlets, they have outlined. Put it on mute, right? Put yours on mute, Trent. There's a lot of background. Okay, Trent. There has been a breakout of how much money the Fisher family, and it was reported in I think it was the Post or the San Francisco newspaper, that Libby Schaaf has received millions of dollars from the Fisher family for 2 reasons. First, to pay her off regarding that Howard Terminal, and second, to close these schools down in areas which will be highly affected to the Black and brown community. Can you elaborate on that, sir? Thank you.
Well, it's a part of the master plan. The master plan is to gentrify the city. Okay, this isn't the first city that this has happened. Okay, this is the same old playbook where billionaires come in and they move into a city and they start paying off the local elected officials to start pushing their weight around and getting their way. You know,
let me just say,
one of the worst.
Let me just say that, Libby, I did a little research on you. You used to be a cheerleader, and you need to go back and start cheerleading because you're destroying the city politically. But go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, she also used to work for the port, so she should know how important the Port of Oakland is, not only to these surrounding cities and counties, but the whole region, the whole state of California. We are the second largest port on the West Coast, and I believe the fourth or fifth largest port in the entire country. Okay, this is a crucial main artery vein to the supply chain for this country. Okay, the rail stemming from Oakland goes straight to the main hub in Chicago. Okay, Chicago has a main rail hub that branches out to the entire country, where cargo goes to Chicago and then it's split up and it goes all over the place, all over the Midwest, all of the places that don't have water access for ships. Okay, the Port of Oakland has a direct, straight rail line going to the Chicago main hub. Okay, we are the shortest route from China to America is Oakland and San Francisco, California. Okay, when it comes to imports. Okay, now I know Los Angeles is the largest port on the West Coast. Okay, but we're the closest to the main country that we trade with, which is China, Hong Kong, all of these countries right across the ocean from us. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to close down an artery. Do you know what would happen to your body if you close down a main artery? You would die. And that's the same thing that's going to happen to the city. I know I said it on one of your previous shows that we can end up being a ghost town, messing around with these people who are money hungry. Okay, they're not thinking about the after effects of the decisions they're making. They're making decisions based on monetary gain and political influence from a billionaire.
Well, let's, Dr. Ashley, can you give us the psychological effect that this is going to have on people who look like us on this platform here, knowing that their jobs are on the verge of, and we're not talking about no $50,000, $75,000 a year job. We're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs that make over $100,000 and up to $400,000 a year. Thank you, Doctor.
No, thank you, Doug. Actually, that was going to be my question to Trent, was to ask about how his members are doing and what is the morale there. But we're talking about, stabilization. That's one of the pillars, being able to work, earn enough money to live, for family. And it has many implications. We're not just talking about stress. We're talking about the trauma of possible relocation and how that can impact generations. And the ceilings. Education is big. We know for children's development. That's why we've worked so hard to advocate for children having access to certain classes, college preparedness that starts in elementary school. And so when we're talking about resources and needing, as Trent mentioned, needing to invest in these local schools, but that it's, a domino effect that has potential to really impact, again, generations. So this is not just, this is the Black Business Roundtable. We're constantly talking about economic disadvantage. How do we have upward mobility? Education is one of those pipelines. Jobs through the ILWU and other generations. You talk about 80 years. What other institution have we had for 80 years that has been committed to providing jobs equitably, without discrimination? So again, there's so much at stake here, but really Oakland and what it stands for.
I'd like to say this. We're not talking about, and all jobs are important, whether it's making a hot dog for someone at a concession stand, giving out beer, or one of the best unions in the United States, the ILWU, which is 74% African American. The psychological damage, Libby, that you are doing to this community, and I've seen you taking pictures with some of the nonprofit organizations in this city. And for you to be destroying us economically, you need to be, it's shame. It's shameful. Shame, shame, shame. Elihu Harris, Honorable Elihu Harris, came on last week. And Dr. Ashley, you heard the words out of his mouth. This is not my mouth now. He was the mayor of this city. Go ahead, Trent.
Right. I agree with the comments that both of you made, and I think that this discussion in itself is very telling of what is going on. It's a microcosm of what's happening across the country. You know, when it comes to the widening of the wealth gap, this is the playbook that the rich is using to widen the wealth gap. Who does widening the wealth gap benefit? It benefits billionaires. Let's just tell it like it is. You know, and they might bring a couple of millionaires along with them to get them to, you know, to go along with the buy into the playbook. But these actions you see taken are literally for the benefit of billionaires and people who have so much money that, you know, another $1 or $2 million is not gonna make a difference with them. You know, but $10 million will make a big difference in the homeless people living under the freeway. Okay, right. $10 million will make a big difference in investing it into a school in Oakland that is so run down because it's been neglected for 20 years. You know, most of these schools that have been neglected are in the Black and brown communities, affecting, you know, Black people, Mexican people, Latin people, you know, minorities, and the decision to close these schools down and privatize them instead of investing into them is the same type of decision being made at the port. We're gonna close down the port instead of investing into it. Who does that affect? It doesn't affect John Fisher. That doesn't affect him. He doesn't live in Oakland. Okay, he lives somewhere else. He lives in some rich community somewhere where he can sit back and look at it and it does not affect him. Okay, but it affects, like Sister Ashley said, it affects 3 generations of my family. You know, I was educated, fed, clothed, everything because of the ILWU. Okay, and not only me, but millions of other Black and brown people were fed, clothed, and everything, sent to college, educated. Even my little sister, she was raised and educated, and that was because of the ILWU. Okay, and tonight she's going to be sworn in as the president for the Women's Brokers Association. Okay, so that in itself proves what Black people in particular can do with the right opportunities and the right resources to raise their children and send their children to school. When the neighborhood you grow up in has a good public school there, when your parents can afford to send you to college, okay, when they can afford to make it where you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat that day, you know, you can go to school, you can concentrate, you can get good grades, and you can be a successful person. You know, all of this is under attack. Everything that the way, my way of life, and not only me, but millions of people, but I'm speaking of me specifically, the way I grew up is under attack. Okay, and it was already bad enough that all of my brothers and sisters weren't able to be raised in an environment like mine, where I didn't have to worry about when I came home whether there was going to be food there. You know, I didn't have to wear my big brother's clothes to school. You know, I didn't have to wear hand-me-downs. I didn't have to worry about getting shot at school. You know, I didn't have to worry about walking through gang territories and all of these things that Black and brown people have to worry about, and all of these setbacks that they have when they're trying to better and improve themselves is sickening. And then when that's already going on right now. I have to worry about sleeping under a freeway. Okay, but that is what's happening now. Okay? And then you have people like Mayor Libby Schaaf, John Fisher, okay, these members of the Port Commission, okay, and the Labor Council. I don't want to leave the Labor Council out, okay, because you're not looking out after working people. You're coming in to try to pull something to make it worse, and that's appalling. When all of those entities that I just mentioned need to be working towards making this situation better. Okay, but since we're talking about Black and brown people, I guess that's not a viable option for them.
Trent, we're working with, because we're going to also be attending the swearing in of Tammy Willis tonight. But we want to say thank you for coming on again. We want to keep our audience updated. I'm gonna ask that we get back in touch with you the next week or two, because you are out there. You're not the president of the ILWU now, but you're out there on your own time now, on your own dime, making a difference. And audience, this and a few others are the reason why the quality of life of Blacks is on the line. We need more people like you, Trent, out there, whether it be in Oakland, California, New York City, Baltimore, Washington. If you are waiting for somebody to represent you, shame on you. Trent Willis, thank you, and I will be in touch with you later tonight to find out the outcome of what happened today. Thank you, sir. Dr. Ashley?
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. And just for your audience, please support the OEA and the Oakland teachers. You have teachers who are going on hunger strikes to try to stop this privatizing of their schools. So we want to throw our entire support behind them. I want them to know that the ILWU is backing them, and I'm actually getting ready to get out of this car right now and go to their rally and let them know that we support them.
Be safe, brother. When you become a powerful man like you become a target.
All right, thank you very much, and I look forward to being on future shows.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ashley, do you see what's going on here in Oakland? This man is out here fighting for labor, education, and not giving one man power and money over tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of constituents in this city. And I know we're working with, because Tim said we have to be off at 4:59. So I'm going to sum up, and I took a few notes. So I'm going to take 1, maybe 2 minutes. But Mayor Libby Schaaf, my name is Doug Blackshear. I'm the host of the Black Business Roundtable. And I'm concerned that you're selling out tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of your constituents who voted on you, whether it be the Black organizations, nonprofit, or just the everyday common Joe Blow. We voted on you to take care of us. And you are selling us out for millions to enrich yourself. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I'm glad that you'll be out of office in less than 11 months. Education. You're closing down our schools. You have an opportunity to usher in, just like you out there getting money, hundreds of millions for the Fisher family to build a Disneyland Park for one rich white family. You could be out there helping an African-American sports and entertainment group. City contracts. The disparities show that you have not fought for equity, where you have $500 million going to white contractors, and you have 1.4 million of those dollars going to Black contractors. And last but not least, all jobs are good. All union jobs we fight for. But the ILWU, which is 74% African American, you're destroying it. So thank you for the terrible job that you're doing, and we don't appreciate it. And I'll say that, Dr. Ashley, you want to start closing us out, because I am just if it wasn't for me going to this Tammy's inauguration tonight, I would be out on the front line with Trent. And audience, you need to get out there and start voting and start holding our politicians accountable, because they're stealing right under your nose and you're not doing anything if you're not out there fighting like Mr. Trent Willis and Janani Ramachandran. Take it over, Dr. Ashley. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your words, Doug, and just some very critical times in Oakland, and all of this happening still in the midst of a pandemic and an inflated cost of living. So we really hope to see a resolution soon. Thank you again to Mr. Trent Willis, for your words and your frontline efforts. We really look forward to hearing more updates about what you're doing and how we at the BBRT, but also our listeners can unify to support your efforts. Want to acknowledge Janani Ramachandran, who will be back with us next week, but is also on the front lines. Please check out her website at Janani for Oakland, for her Instagram handle, and also JananiForOakland.com. Again, to join our BBRT advertisement family, please send us an email to bbrt2021@hotmail.com. Also, we have a network of shows hosted by Mr. Donnie Glover. Thank you again, Donnie, for this wonderful platform. Be sure to check us out on all social media platforms. And Doug?
Dr. Ashley, we are right on time. And I have my closing only I ask for 1 minute, but can you help our audience, those who are being affected by these greedy politicians taking money from corporate America? Can you help us end this on a good note and how to stay strong up here? Thank you.
By knowing what you deserve, again, our ancestors, sometimes we have to make our voices heard. So empowering yourselves to use your platform. We saw that with Mr. Trent Willis. We see Janani on the front lines, whether that's writing, calling, holding your local officials accountable. Make your voice heard. We know we have listeners nationwide, but the City of Diversity, Oakland, California, we're built on activism. So please just keep fighting for what you deserve.
Dr. Ashley and audience, and I constantly say this, continue to strengthen your mind by talking to a professional psychologist, specifically a doctor. We are the Black Business Roundtable. Thank you, audience, and we appreciate you tuning in. And remember, together, we can listen, we can learn, we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blackshear of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless you, and good night. Thank you.